welcome to my sewing room. This is Jo from Jo's Country Junction, and I'm here today to do a Sew with Jo episode with you. I've been trying to do a few more of them. I've been getting so many requests for them that I decided, what the heck, I'll just take you along when I sew and we'll just work on a project together. Today I am working on making some simple 9-patch blocks. I'm using 2.5-inch squares. In some cases, I'm using 2.5-inch strips, and I'm doing some strip piecing. If you want to know a little bit more about how I do that, you can watch a different video that I have. I'm not sure which one it is, but we'll put it in a link below. But these are the squares I'm making. As you can see, I'm not super picky about this. I'm not a big ironer, so I'm not going to be doing a lot of ironing. I will just follow along and I'll talk to you about it as we go. I am making a quilt for two of my granddaughters. They are going to share a bedroom, and so I'm making more or less matching quilts. And this is the center of the quilt. I think you can get the idea of it. And here I put, I have two 9 patches together, and I sewed them 3 wide, so it's a 2x3 section in the center of 9-patch blocks. I'll stand up. And then I found this unicorn print fabric that it's a panel, and I cut the panel pieces out, and I was hanging out with one of my childcare kids, and I had some of the blocks there and I had some of the panels there, and she really liked this layout. And so what it is the 2x3 section in the center, and then there's a section of the unicorn panels sewn together around that border that. And then the next is a row of 9 patches with just the unicorn blocks in the corner. So this one is only this far. This would be a great baby size quilt if you're thinking about that. And I'll put a link to the unicorn fabric in the description box below too. So one of my quilts is that far, and the other quilt is getting towards the end, getting towards completion. So this one's much bigger, and I know you can't see that very good in the camera, but you get the general idea. Because now I'm just adding, the 9-patch rows on the outer borders to get it up to the size I want. They're going to have, I believe, single beds. So I'm making them both twin size quilts. And I already have some strips going here. And I already have some blocks going here. And here at my sewing table, or my sewing machine, I have lots of strips already sewn together. So that's what I'm working on here. And mostly what I'm just going to be doing is sewing them into twosies. Well, first I sewed the 2 strips together like this, and then I'll be adding a 3rd strip onto them. This is a pretty simple quilt, a great beginner quilt. If you're wondering, the little panels, I cut them to 6.5 by 6.5, and that means that they'll be the size of a finished 9-patch block, because these are made with 2.5-inch pieces sewn together. They ended up being 6.5 by 6.5 unfinished. I had used a bunch of me and my sister prints for these, and then I started realizing I wasn't going to have enough of those prints, so then I went into my scrap buckets and pulled more strips and started making some blocks out of strips, and I found some charm packs, and I threw some charm packs in. I had some that were solid print charm packs like this, and so I threw those in with the stuff. This is just a quilt that's using up a whole bunch of everything. Pretty much any color and anything that would go okay with those panel blocks that are unicorn themed. So I'm happy to be working on this, happy to be making some quilts for my granddaughters. I'm not making a super fancy one because I still anticipate they are at the age that they're still going to throw up on their quilt. They're still going to spill food on a quilt. because right now one of my granddaughters is 4 and the other one is 2. So off we go to start doing some sewing. I use a lot of baskets for organization. I'm very big into baskets. Here I've got some pieces. I'm trying to, I kind of kept these sorted in a way that this pile over here was made with the strips and this was made with a charm pack. So I'm trying to get some of the pieces mixed together. There's no rhyme or reason why I pick one from this side or one from that side. I just put them together and try to find so that the colors aren't necessarily, the same colors aren't necessarily touching. And as you can see, these, I didn't even iron these yet. I like that because these happen to be ironed, these aren't ironed. I like not ironing them. I know that some people think that that's crazy, but it allows me to flip the seam whichever direction I need it to go because I butt the seams together. So you can see here as I'm putting them together, one seam is going up, this one's on this side's going up, and this one's going down. So I can butt the seams together, and by not ironing them, it gives me a little more give. So I can make sure that my seams match. My hope is really to get these quilts really moving along because I have lots of other deadlines happening, but I'd like to get these finished in the month of September yet. So I've been working on them whenever I have some spare time. I have to say I'm completely, entirely way over the excitement of making 9-patch blocks. So I have made 9-patch blocks for the bigger one behind me. I've made 9-patch blocks for the smaller one that I showed at the beginning, and I also made a small quilt for my other granddaughter, Georgia, and it was unicorn themed. I was using the same colored fabrics, and I'm just, you know, ready to be done sewing with these with this color. I think we all can relate that sometimes if we do a big project, we're just ready to be done. So I've been, if I go to bed at night, I sometimes go to bed a little bit earlier and then I'll just sew some of these for about 20 minutes. When I've got some time here and there, I'll just quickly sew a couple blocks because I'm trying so hard just to be done sewing these because, as I said, I'm kind of ready to be done. If you hear a hum in the background, that's my ceiling fan. I have kind of a noisy ceiling fan that makes it a little bit interesting sometimes to video. Right now as I'm filming, it's we're into the second week in September, and it is still, I live in Iowa, and so it's still kind of hot yet in Iowa. Not terrible, but we still have some pretty hot days. And my sewing room happens to be the furthest room away from the furnace. So we have a 2-story house, and my furnace is all the way that way, and my house is my sewing room is all the way this way. My furnace is in the basement. I'm on the 2nd floor of the house, and so this room happens to get about the least amount of heat in the winter, and it gets the least amount of cool in the summer. I get some, so it's not terrible or anything. But when we built the house, we talked about putting a split unit up here so I would be able to regulate my heat and cooling a little better, but we ended up deciding not to after we started to see the budget of the house come in. I'm sure you can all relate to that as well. Sometimes the cost of things determines whether we do them or not, and it's not bad at all, but it just means that I really have to run the ceiling fan. And mind it means I have to wear a sweatshirt when I sew. And just like that, my phone is ringing. Just a second. I'm back. Just a quick phone call I didn't expect. So we're back to making blocks. Earlier today I was out in the garden picking some tomatoes. I still have some things blooming and are growing in the garden, which I really appreciate because I love extending my garden season as long as I can. When I was out there, I saw that I had a big batch of tomatoes that need to be picked, and I should probably process those as well. I'm kind of excited about that because I have an idea to try something new. I make a something called yard sauce, which is basically a spaghetti sauce starter, and I make it in the oven. I don't have to take the skins off the tomatoes or anything like that, and then I just freeze it when I'm done making it. And so my idea, because I got a new idea about this, is to try to make a chili starter instead. So I have some jalapenos and some banana peppers that need to be used out there. So I'm going to modify the recipe, add some chili seasoning, chili powder to it, and like some cumin and some of the jalapenos and the banana peppers out in the garden. And I'm going to try to make a chili starter. So I'm super excited about trying that. And so that's probably what I'm going to be doing after I'm done making blocks with you today. I keep auditioning just to see which pieces would look a little bit better together. If you're wondering why I'm looking at them one way or the other. As you can see, I don't pin. I'm not a pinner girl. I've been sewing and quilting for a long time, and I feel pretty confident with myself that I can put two pieces together. I can take my fingers, my thumb and my forefinger and my pointer finger, and I can push to make sure that the seam is butted, and then I do that. I sew just enough to get to that seam, and then I reposition my piece, and then I take my middle finger and I rub to make sure that, again, those seams are butted, and then I sew all the way through. And that's the way I do it when I am doing a project like this, because I am an experienced sewer and I feel comfortable doing that, and I'm not super picky. You know, if you're super picky, you might want to pin, and I'm just not that girl, and I feel like it just saves a ton of time to not be too concerned about pinning. But again, that's just my personal preference. If you're into pinning, you know, you do what makes you happy and what you feel comfortable as to how your finished product looks. Okay, and I just realized I should probably, I don't have these counted out. I'm kind of a fly by the seat of my pants sewer too. So I don't have these counted out, and I don't know exactly how many blocks this is going to make. And to be perfectly honest, I don't even know how many blocks I need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these that are back here, because I have to add a third strip onto them, and I don't know how many I have here, and I don't know how many I have here, so I have to balance it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide these down here for a sec. And I'm a big, I just buy these little, I don't know, tray baskets almost, and use those for everything. Like this one right now, I have my finished ones in. This one I have empty here because I am going to be taking my little Blade Saver threader tool. And this is from Purple Hobbies, and I just love it. I took you take an old rotary cutter blade and you put the blade into the center and you screw it all together and put it together. And then this acts like a razor blade. And so I just do that and it's cut apart, and then I can put it into my holder. And then I just take these and I cut them apart like this. And I try to make sure I get into a rhythm so that I have the seams all going the same way, and I try to stack the seams of what I'm cutting so that right now the seams are all to this direction, and it just makes it easier when I go to pick them up and sew and have the seams all in the right direction. You can see you can get into a rhythm, and this ends up being pretty fast. So I'm going to line those up over there in my basket and start coming up here to grab another end. I think this is the way that's working better. This little thread cutter is a product from Purple Hobbies. It's a website online. I will put the link to that in this description box below. The gal that owns Purple Hobbies, her name is Heather, and she's sent me promotional products so that she gives them to me and I can review them and decide if I like them or not. And if I want to, I can tell you all about them. This I love because just look how fast this is. I just love it. If you're a chain piecer, this is kind of one of those must-have pieces. Okay, and I have one back here. I should have counted those as I went. So I just setting this aside. And she makes these that they can come in, I don't know, maybe 12 different colors, maybe even more than that. So now I have some of these that I'll be working with. And here are my pieces back. I will do it like this, I think. I like a big surface like this so that I can decide, well, it gives me space to work and audition different pieces that I might, oh, everything has a green in the center. Okay, here's a blue one, that'll be better. And when I add, okay, so now I'm adding this piece onto my block. And I do it exactly the same way as I did it before. I really enjoy sewing 9 patches. I think I'm just tired of this color palette is all. If I had to pick my favorite kind of block, I would say it would be some kind of star block. Right now my sewing plate is pretty loaded. I have quite a few projects that I am working on or have deadlines for. These 2 quilts are one of the projects I'm working on. I'm also working on my True Blue quilt. The last time you saw me here on a Sew with Joe episode, that's the project I was working on at that time. And that has a deadline. Well, it doesn't have a deadline really, but it's got a deadline in my mind. I really wish I could get that quilt done in September too. I'm really talking a busy September the way it sounds. And I have another project that will be in American Patchwork and Quilting in the spring of next year. They have a 30th anniversary issue, so it'll be the 30th anniversary of American Patchwork and Quilting, and that will leave us with something to celebrate. And one of the things I'll be celebrating with along with them is that I'll have a quilt in that magazine, and it's not an easy piece quilt. It used templates to cut it out, and I'm really excited to sew it, but it takes a little more concentration than these 9-patch blocks, sadly, because I could use a project that's easy like this. I also have a hourglass project that I'm working on that's up here. I haven't been working on that nearly as much since I bumped this quilt into my repertoire. My goal for today is to have enough blocks to get the top and bottom next row of 9-patch blocks. I have enough right now just in the basket that I showed you of finished blocks right here. In that basket, I already have enough, but I've really learned that these blocks all have specific fabrics to them, because these were mostly made with me and my sister fabrics. And so these new blocks that I'm making, they have different fabrics in them, and I don't want it to be all of this, and I don't want it to be all of this. So I stopped sewing these together, decided to make some more of these blocks, so then you can't tell where one kind of block starts and the other kind of blocks begin. As long as I keep doing it this way, the blocks will all be mixed together, and then people won't be able to tell when I made which blocks, or even that there's a difference in the blocks. But right now, if I went to sew them, you might notice something like that. I'm just slowly working on these, hoping to get a few more done. Typically, I listen to a book on tape or an audio book when I work on blocks like this, or sometimes I watch Floss Tube because I'm a cross stitcher too, because right behind where between the wall and the camera that you're watching me from, I have a television on the back wall, and so oftentimes I have TV on and watching something. Gotta get my seams to butt. I have no trouble with that right now. I'm slowly working my way into getting into a rhythm that I don't have child care kids or my grandkids here so much during the week. My younger grandson that I took care of, he started preschool, and he started that a couple weeks ago, well, a week ago, and so I don't have him during the day anymore, but I do get the kids when the bus comes. So that leaves me with some afternoon sewing time, which I'm having a lot of fun with. I really enjoy having a little bit extra time in the afternoon to sit down and sew. part of me, when I'm doing these blocks, it makes me feel like I'm playing a matching game, because I'm trying to actually not match. Because again, here I'm trying to find a piece that would go with these, and this one looks pretty good. I'm not real picky about it, but I try not to put like an orange by an orange, not like a touching. It doesn't matter if they're in the same block, but I just am trying to get them to not touch. I use all sorts of fabric in these. As I said, like one was a charm pack, and I actually use several charm packs. Some were just strips that I had in my strip container box. This one looks good. This isn't at all my typical style quilt. I usually make things that are a little bit more complex, but I'm happy to being I've got to make 2 of these. I'm extra happy that it's not too difficult of a pattern. Okay, now I'm starting to get quite a few, you can see, finished blocks coming out that side, which is awesome, because that's the goal here, is to make more blocks. Back to the matching game. I was reading through the comments that people had left from my previous video, and someone wrote, "You seem so organized." Oh my goodness, I do not feel organized at all. That comment actually made me chuckle a little bit. It was a very sweet comment, but oh, if they could see the room behind me, even though I recently cleaned my sewing room, I still have little projects and things waiting for my attention. I do try really hard to be pretty organized with that these pieces are here and these pieces are here, and I have totes and baskets for there. I'm very conscious about how that part of my sewing is organized. It just makes it so much easier. I'm a person that very easily will flip corners. Like if I'm making a star block and you need the 2 points to be up, I'm the person who's very well known to have the 2 points facing the center of the quilt instead of facing out on a star block. I'm just notorious for things like that. And so I try hard to try to get some kind of organizational system when I'm first doing a block, so that I can try to prevent as much block twisting and points going the wrong direction as I can. And I've done it so many times the wrong way that I'm a little bit more conscious to make sure I do it the right way. Okay, not that one. Not that one. I keep finding the knots, but I don't find the good ones, so this one will work. I think that there's an old saying that's necessity is the mother of invention, and that's really any kind of system or idea I've come up with to try to make things a little bit easier, it's all been because I'm learning from my mistakes. Someone asked me how long I've been quilting, and let me think. I graduated in 1984. I was born in 65. I don't remember a time in my life when my mom didn't encourage me to do some kind of needlework, crafting, something like that. I remember very well at the ironing board, my mom giving me handkerchiefs to iron, and I ironed and ironed handkerchiefs. And I just thought that that was the most exciting thing. I remember having a needle and thread and stitching by hand. In fact, I have a picture of myself where I actually stitched my pants piece of fabric with a needle and thread, and I stitched it right to my pants. Let me think. I remember like sewing small things. My mom got a Viking sewing machine that had cams in the back here that you used to put these cams in there so that you could change the stitches. And she got that when I was 5 or 6. And I totally remember playing around with that machine at the time, and that it was just set up at the dining room table, and my mom would let me just sew across fabric with decorative stitches because I thought those decorative stitches were so neat. I was just mesmerized to watch the machine. I had a lot of fun with that. I remember like sewing denim and putting changing the color of the floss and doing decorative stitches, and then I had a piece about this big, and then it had a different color of decorative stitch all the way across it, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. I remember when I was probably 8 or so, my sister, she lived right close to us, and I remember going to her house, and I remember her helping me sew doll clothes for my doll. I remember sewing Barbie doll clothes when I was older. Back at that time, my mom wasn't really quilting a lot, and I wasn't quilting a lot, but my mom was very into clothing. My mom was very short-waisted, and she had bigger hips, and she liked her clothes to be cut a certain way, and so she would buy something in town and bring it home, and then she would remake it. And so there was always been like sewing in my life, but not so much quilting. Then when I was in high school, I remember taking fashion merchandising. I remember taking sewing classes. All of those, we had to do some kind of sewing in school with a machine, and I was a prolific sewer in high school. I made several of my own outfits. My mom made my prom dress, and I remember helping with that. My mom made my wedding dress, and she made some of the bridesmaid dresses. My mom was always sewing clothing, and my mom very much enjoyed sewing clothing. She was good at altering or tailoring clothing. Me, I just never had the patience for that. Like I said, I have an older sister who's quite a bit older than me, and she is very good at tailoring and altering clothes. Me, like I said, not so much. I'm more the quilter. And when my mom started having grandkids, she started making quilts for the grandkids. And so I was in on that a little bit and kind of helped. She did applique, and she zigzagged around the edges of the applique, and that's how she made the quilts for her grandkids. But she didn't actually do regular patchwork quilting. I think probably about 1990 or so, my husband had a job, and the gal, he was farmhand, and the owner's wife, of the owner of the farm, his wife, she was very into quilting, and she kind of showed me what she was doing with quilting, and I ended up catching the quilting bug. And then I learned about Country Threads and Garner, and I was just so in awe of their quilts, and I spent much of 1990 and 2000s and 2010s, doing a lot of quilting. I very much enjoy quilting, and quilting has become a big part of my life. It's just funny how some hobbies come and go, just like in the early 90s when my kids were little, just right before I got into doing a lot of quilting. At that time I was doing a lot of cross stitching, and then I quit cross stitching and got really into quilting, heavy into quilting. And then about 4 years ago or so, I started doing like cross stitch again, which I'm very excited about. So that's kind of been the evolution of my hobbies. And I've done a few other things. I've done like some wool applique, and I've done a couple punch needle projects. I'm always looking for something crafty to do, but quilting is probably my first love. Although cross stitch is really trying to ease its way into that spot. When I was 16, I think, for my birthday, my parents bought me my first sewing machine, and that was a Singer. I remember going to the Skyline Mall in Albert Lea, Minnesota, and my mom looking at used machines, and I thought she was just getting a machine for her house because it had gotten to the point that I was using a sewing machine as much as she was, and she kind of just wanted her own machine with her own space. But it turns out she was actually shopping for a sewing machine for me, and I was just like super excited when I figured that out. And so I sewed on that Singer for, I don't know, probably from the time I was 16 until I was about, maybe 23 or so. Yeah, that sounds about right. Maybe 22. And that machine was a really good machine, and I really loved it, but I don't remember quite what happened, but the machine completely broke, and I was super sad. And we were young and married and didn't have a ton of money, and it was kind of a struggle for us to get something figured out, but we did. And from there I went and bought a White sewing machine was the brand, and I actually went on and bought 2 of those because at the time I was doing craft shows, and I was making a lot of stuffed dolls and decorative things, and I had a lot of fun with that, but I needed a backup machine, so that's what prompted me to so then I got identical machines so that if one was in the shop I could still make stuff. And that was a fine machine. I didn't have any problems with those machines at all, but they were super basic. Then as time went on, I bought a Bernina. I thought that I would be somebody who liked embroidery, and it turns out I am not someone who likes embroidery. Sometimes it takes a little while for us to figure things out about ourselves, and that took buying that machine to figure that out for me. I am not very patient. I think I've said that before, and I think you have to be kind of patient to be someone who enjoys machine embroidery. I just had a couple projects where I went and bought a sweatshirt and was going to put some kind of emblem or decal on it, and then the item wasn't positioned correctly on the sweatshirt, and then I wasted a whole sweatshirt, and I didn't really like that. think I bought one a little bit too early before the technology is what it is now, because now I feel like it's better. You can update your software easily yourself, where back when I bought mine, I could only put cams or little discs into my embroidery machine. Yeah, my pile's growing back there. Can you see it? It's just really big. And so then I pieced on that embroidery machine for a long time. And then I decided that I wanted to get a long arm. Well, we had 5 kids. My husband was a farmer. And we didn't have a ton of money. So rather than getting a full-size long arm, I ended up getting a mid arm, and it was a FOF mid arm. And that turns out to be this machine right here. I later updated and got an APQS long arm, and that's what you see behind me. And then I took the machine off my mid arm. That's this machine. And then this machine has become my main piecing machine. And I've had escapades here and there, dabbling and collecting old singers. I have an old singer that sits over there. It's in a cabinet. It's a 1591, and that's my other machine. I keep both of these set up all the time, and I sew some things on that one and some things on this one. Sometimes I keep a different I often keep a different project on that one and a different project here, so then I don't have to change thread colors and stuff like that if I have 2 different machines. And that one, I do most of my crumb piecing and my string piecing, and that kind of stuff happens over on that machine, because this is a total silly reason. The door to my room, to come in and out of my room, is right there, and this machine sits right here, so when the door is open, you can see whatever mess I have right here from the hallway. But I can hide the mess that's behind that machine, so when people open the door, you can't immediately see my whole big mess. And if you've done any string piecing or crumb piecing, you know that it gets super messy. So that's why I do that on that machine, so I can hide the mess. So there's True Confessions with Joe Kramer. I also have a Singer 301 that's on a shelf up there. I pull that one down sometimes if I'm going to sew downstairs. I still have that Bernina machine, and that one's in my closet. I don't use that one hardly at all. I've been thinking about pulling it out and setting it up just so that the grandkids or childcare kids could see it do embroidery. I think they would find that kind of mesmerizing, back like when I saw my mom's machine do fancy stitches, and I thought that was mesmerizing. Isn't that funny? Oh, but that's kind of the machines I have. Oh, I have a featherweight too. My husband bought me that on an auction for $5, and I have a Singer 99 machine that's in a cabinet, and I have 2 treadles. So that's my sewing machines that I have. So the 301, the 1591, the FOF Grand Quilter, which is a hobby 120, my Bernina 165, my featherweight, the 2 treadles, and the long arm. I think that's everything. That's more than plenty, because there's just me. I really only would need 1 machine. All of the vintage machines I've gotten, I've paid very, very, very little for them. I probably wouldn't go spend a lot of money on any of them. My $15.91 that's in a cabinet, that one came from a thrift store, and I bought that for $15. Like I said, my featherweight was only $5 on an auction. The Singer 99, that one's in a cabinet as well. That one was, I think, $50 on a garage sale, and my 301 is my most expensive vintage machine. That one I think I paid $100 for at the thrift store, which is more than I would normally pay. But the thrift store that I bought it from, everything that you buy there, the money that they make from the sales goes into the community, so I don't mind spending a little more there, because it's partially a donation, I always figure. I'm not really on the hunt for vintage machines anymore. I was for a while, but I kind of got that out of my system, because I figured out I don't have enough room to enjoy them or enough time to enjoy each of them. And when everything's said and done, it's this machine, my Pfaff Grand Quilter or Hobby 120. That's really my favorite machine. This machine can sew really fast. Not that I need to sew really fast, but I sometimes do. Still looking for matches. It sounds like I'm out of thread. Yep, I am. This machine makes a really distinct noise that if you listen at all, you can tell when it's out of thread. So here I only sewed an inch before I realized I was out of thread. I keep a little drawer system right here. It's a little 6-drawer. It's a little 6-drawer wood table that I bought. It was still in the package, and I bought it from the thrift store for $20 and brought it home and begged my husband to put it together. So I keep bobbins in the top, and I usually keep a bunch of them that are filled. Here's a little tip for you. I keep my bobbins in a thing like this, and I have 5 kids, and my 5 kids call me very, very often. So I wouldn't doubt that throughout the course of a day, between the 5 of them, I might get 8 to 12 phone calls. And sometimes it's just something really quick, like, hey, the boys are getting off the bus at your house, or something like that. And that's only as long as the telephone conversation is. But for my kids that live further distance away, oftentimes I might talk to them on the phone for 20 minutes or so. So if I'm in the sewing room when they call, I put my phone on speakerphone, and then I just fill bobbins, because it's something I can do while I talk to them, and I can still completely concentrate on the conversation. I'm a big time multitasker, and I probably do it a little bit too much, but that's just my nature, and I like being able to get a couple things done at once. And that's the way I usually fill my bobbins, is when one of the kids calls me on the phone. How silly is that? But so there's my tip for the day for you, is if someone calls you when you're in your sewing room, fill bobbins. And a lot of times when the kids talk to me, it's not even always on the phone. A lot of times it's messages through Messenger too. So if I know there's going to be several messages, I'll often fill bobbins then too. Okay, so I'm trying to think and talk at the same time, which is kind of hard. So I got all of my pieces done that needed the extra piece put on them. So I am going to run 2 through the machine here. All right, I'm going to take 2 pieces and go back to doing the twosies. But I don't want these all mixed up. So I'm going to put that 1 through the machine, and then I'm going to clip, and I'm back to using my trusty little thread cutter. I like doing it this way better. Somebody would probably be asking me right now if I plan on ironing these, and to be perfectly honest, I probably won't. I typically, if I'm making a kind of this style of quilt, I often don't iron until the top is completely finished. And I am fully aware that some people are completely mortified by that, but it's just a matter of what you like and what you don't like. For me, I don't like to iron because once I iron something, then that seam is set. It's hard to manipulate that seam at all. Your fabric doesn't have any give. If you pull your fabric still has a little bit of give, but once you iron it, it really loses a lot of that give, and then it's virtually not as easy to, I should be counting these, shouldn't I? But I won't. It's really hard to manipulate the seam and try to get your seams to match. And so I just prefer not to iron. And that's kind of partly, I think, because of that seam manipulation, and partly because I'm just lazy and I don't like to take the time to do it. But my quilts turn out just fine. Obviously, you've seen them, or if you're new here, you may not know or have seen them, but they're in a quilt magazine, so they're obviously good enough for that. Not that even in a quilt magazine that the seams are perfect, but all in all, that method is working for me, and I just encourage everybody to find a method that works for you. If that's not something that you'd ever want to do, then don't do it. If you really want to iron. But I challenge anyone to try to make 1 or 2 blocks and not iron very much. Just like limit the amount that you iron and see if it's something that you might like to. And someone asked me once, well, you know, everyone irons so much. And I like to challenge people back and say, do you really think that your grandma, who was sitting at a treadle sewing machine, after she sewed this seam, that she jumped up, got her old sad iron all hot, and ironed that? Or do you think that she probably got the block finished and then went and ironed it because she didn't want to heat up the house with the iron and she didn't want to jump up and down to the iron? I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. And as I said, I welcome everybody to do whatever you want to do, but I also challenge you to possibly try something different and maybe not iron as much and see if that's something you like as well. Okay, so I had a couple blocks here that had 2 pieces on it. I'm going to put the 3rd piece on those. And now I'm kind of back to the whole, it drives my daughter Kelly crazy that I don't count the pieces and I just kind of go with the flow. I kind of like, I don't know, what do they call it? Play chicken. So those blocks are done, and I have this stack and I have this stack left of pieces that need to be sewn together into 9 patches. So each 9 patch needs 3 strips. So I've got to try to figure out how many blocks I could make. I could count it out and put it in piles of 3, or I could just play chicken. What I'll probably do, because again, I hate wasting time, so I'm gonna probably make put about 7 blocks through the machine, 7 twosies through the machine, and then see where I'm at. I was super tempted to go to town today to the thrift store. I'm a big lover of going to the thrift store, but I happened to get myself to not go where we live, because we live in Northeast Iowa, and it's pretty rural. People ask me where I live, and if I say I live about an hour from the Wisconsin border, an hour from the Minnesota border, and we live right up in the northeast corner, and that's about where we live. So the closest store to me, or the thrift store I like to go to, or like if I'm going to go to a Walmart, it's a half an hour away. So as much as I would love to go to town and just browse and do nothing and dink around, I end up wasting a lot of time because it's a half an hour there, half an hour home, and half an hour to do my dinking around. So I decided to refrain and work on this quilt. I'm usually pretty good about that and don't. And usually only go to town once a week. Trying to find some that can go together. I'm doing pretty good. I'm hoping we can get these blocks done here before too long. There's one. Barring some natural disaster, I'm going to have that big quilt top finished before I go to bed tonight. That's just my goal. And sometimes I have to make a goal like that. Even if I end up having to stay up late, I'm still going to do it. Because I really just would love for that to be, for at least one to be done. And then I'm going to work on the other one right away. I was able to find some great unicorn backing print from Quilted Twins. If you haven't bought fabric from there, they're a great little fabric shop online. They have good reasonable prices. I very much enjoy getting things from there. And I was able to get one quilt backing that's pink and one that is teal. And so one granddaughter will have a pink backing and one will have a teal backing. And I thought that was probably a good idea so they could tell their quilts apart. And then I got enough fabric so that I am going to have matching pillowcases. And I was happy about that too. So after I get the quilts made, then I'll be making pillowcases. And hopefully that will be done in September too. Yahoo! Oops, no. There. more than 7. I think we better stop and count. Okay, let's see. 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. The way it looks. I know I still have enough for that, so I'll just be more careful next time. But for now, I'm going to run these through the machine. Kind of excited. I signed up to get Country Threads' new quilt book, and I saw a little preview of it a while back and put myself on a pre-order list, so I'll be getting my book pretty soon, I'm hoping. At the time, I had talked to Mary from Country Threads, and Mary said that she wasn't sure about books or if they were going to get books or how that was going to go, so I ended up pre-ordered one from Amazon, but then later found out that Mary was going to do signed copies with Connie and send those out for people who ordered directly from them. And I wish I had known that at the time, because I would have ordered directly from them instead, but I didn't. But I saw that Mary on the Chicken Scratch blog, she said that they're getting books in soon and that they would be mailing them out soon. So that means that Amazon's probably going to have them soon as well. So I ordered my book from there, and I'm kind of excited. Mary wrote something too that Connie from Country Threads as well was probably going to organize a quilt along for the cover quilt, and I really like that quilt. So hopefully I can get some of my projects done around here, and then I could start a new project. But who knows? I've not been very good about completing too many things lately. It's just a bad time of year for me for sewing. I get more sewing done once the weather gets colder and there's not things to do outside. Right now I've been doing some landscaping. I did some power washing and some repainting of things in the house or outside the house. And so if I've got all those things to do, it's hard to squeeze in sewing time too. In the winter, when there's not garden to tend and lawn to mow and all of those things, it's easier to get more quilting time in. I'm sure most of you can relate as well. We're doing pretty good. Getting more and more done here. Probably by the time you are watching this, I'll probably be inundated with grandchildren. On Saturday, the kids call it, they're having cousin weekend. And so cousin weekend means all of my grandkids come home to my house and hang out. And I'm pretty excited to have one. We've had a couple other ones this summer and they've all turned out pretty fun. I have 9 grandkids. One is And I have another due in a couple weeks here. So there'll be 10 soon before long, which is a handful. I am probably going to have all these guys myself because 2 of my daughters are nurses and they're working the overnight shift. So they'll be sleeping while I have kids. And my other son who's bringing his kids, he is going to like an all-day bachelor party. One of his high school friends is getting married, so they're having a bachelor party. Okay, that got all of those done. Now I'm down to this many scraps. I just keep making blocks and making blocks, and hopefully we'll get to an end eventually. My daughter Calissa, who does my video editing, I'm going to see if she can edit this tomorrow, and then hopefully it'll be up and some of you will be watching this on Saturday. And as you do, feel free to send good wishes my way, because my house will be full with 8 of the grandkids. 1 can't make it. They have previous plans. They have a wedding that day. But I'll have 8 of the 9. And so the oldest is 7. So there's a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, 2 3-year-olds, a 2-year-old, and a set of twins that are 1. That's who's going to be at my house tomorrow while you're watching this. And I'll be, well, we jokingly call it riding herd around here. So that's what I'll be doing, is riding herd with all of those guys. A lot of people think that that's quite a lot and overwhelming. And I don't want to say it's not, because it is. However, I've spent my life as a in-home childcare provider, and that's been my day job for a long time. And I kind of worked my way out of that, but I still am used to having a lot of kids quite regularly, so I'm not too worried about it. But it can still be a challenge. Hopefully everybody's well rested. I always, when I grew up, wished that I had had more contact with my cousins and that we did more things with my cousins. So I try extra hard to make sure my grandkids can get together with their cousins. And I offer up my house and my time so that that can happen. Okay, I'm doing a little fewer because I keep having fewer and fewer scraps or strips to put into these. So this is how I'm playing chicken, is I'm grabbing some and making them go and seeing how many blocks I'm going to get. That one's kind of a busy one, but oh well. I'm going to take a different piece. This will go better. Okay, I'm working my way down. Oh, this is kind of fun. I like a good challenge, so we'll see if I can get the right amount of twosies through the machine before I add the third one. I have one more here. Okay, now I'm getting quite a few pieces that are the same color. Oh no. Okay, I think I can put this one over here. Then we'll count to see how many pieces I have left. This is the most gambling I do in my life, is this kind of gambling. So I've been down to 4 pieces. So, okay, these 3 are still different. So I'll sew these 3 together like this. And we'll get a black, I think. Okay. I rarely do this, but here we go. I like to use up as much as I can. Oh, I don't know if I like that. Yeah, I can make it work. The block will blend in with the other stuff once I get them all together. Individually as a block, it's not too cute, but once it blends in with the other ones, it'll be just fine. So there you have it. It looks like I have my blocks all sewn, and now I'm ready to get them into strips and get those quilts bigger. Oh, hey, look, I have this one I forgot about. So it's going to work out exactly evenly. I can put that one right on there. Okay, that turned out even better than I thought. So that makes me excited. Like I said, I know most of you probably have stopped and counted, but I never do, because in the end it is what it is, and I save some time by not stopping and counting. So now these are all done, and I'll be mixing those in with those other blocks that I previously had done, and hopefully together, maybe if you check out the blog on Monday, I will have all of the, well, at least one quilt top done. I'm kind of hoping to have both of them done, but I don't know, because like I said, the grandkids are coming. I think they're coming in Friday night. They're going to start trickling in. Then I'll have all of them all day Saturday, and then I'll have half of them on Sunday. So it'll be a good, oh, excuse me, I have the hiccups. It'll be a good, fun, busy weekend, but I think a good grandma weekend. And I love grandma weekends. And now I'm going to go drink something so I can hopefully get rid of the hiccups. So, oh dear. Well, I'm glad I at least got the hiccups now instead of earlier, because right now we're coming to an end. So thanks for joining me in my sewing room today. I really appreciate having the company. And let me know what you're working on. Just leave a comment. So I'm going to go, my hiccupy self. See you later.